Hello, everyone. It is Jeff Seidman, and I am here doing my podcast, Optimizing Aging, where we talk about everything that has to do with looking younger, feeling better, having more energy. And today I've got a special treat for you. I've got two 1997 Body of Work co-champions here, Drew Avery and Brad Wadlow. And we're going to talk about the exact routines we went through to achieve those incredible transformations that we achieved to win the contest. But we're also going to talk about what's really important in our minds today, which is still being 63. I'm 63 years old. Drew Avery's, you're 60 or 61, Drew?
61.
61. And Brad Wadlow's 55. And yet all of us still have pretty much the same strength, physiques, energy we had when we won the contest over 25 years ago. So we're going to talk about how we're able to maintain health, fitness, energy, and vitality at a very high level like we still do today. So anyways, I want to introduce first Drew Avery to the show. Introduce yourself, Drew, and then I'll move on to Brad.
Well, Jeff, I'm glad to be here today. Yes, I'm Drew Avery, one of the EAS guys. And hey, this is my second time on the podcast with you, so I appreciate the call back. I think we're going to have some fun today.
Yeah, I agree. So, Brad Wadlow, introduce yourself as well.
Hi, it's Brad Wadlow here, and I was one of the original 10 with these two guys here back in '97, and second time here on the podcast. Glad to be here and had a good time the first time. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So anyways, I'm just going to start right off by asking, because I've received so many emails and messages regarding what we specifically did. I want to get more into detail of how we achieved those results that we achieved. I believe it was 27 years ago now in the 1997 Body Work Challenge. And then later in the podcast, we're going to talk about what we're doing today. But anyways, Drew, so if you could go into detail on as far as your nutrition, your workout, your cardio, if you did any cardio, but just we'll start with the nutrition first for each of you. But if you want to talk about your nutrition, exactly what you did, what you ate, and your protein shakes, your supplements, vitamins, anything else you included. So what did you do back in 1997 to achieve such incredible results, Drew?
Well, as I recall, I started off with frosted flakes in the morning. It was really,
Oh, yeah, like all of us.
Low carb.
Like all of us.
No, but in all seriousness, what I did, and I think we mentioned it on the first podcast, was I determined that I needed to have a little guidance on the nutrition side. So I happened to contact Keith Klein, who had been in Muscle Media magazine, and he was a nutritionist out of Houston. And so he designed the framework for me. Basically, the framework is defined by the basic foods I would be eating and the calorie amount based on my goal. And so once I had that information, then over time, I just tailored it to my own specific taste preferences. But in terms of just like the scaffolding or the framework of what I did, I think we all would agree that it had to be a system of eating that you could consistently do every day without having to do a lot of thinking. And so that's where I'll start with this, is if you don't plan whatever meal plan you're going to go with, whatever you've set up for yourself on your transformation, if you can't stick with that every day without having to do a lot of thinking or a lot of prep, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. So where I started out was I went to Walmart at the time, and I bought 48 or 50 plastic trays, those 3-compartment plastic trays. I would buy the Costco, I say Costco, but it's actually, it was called Price Club at the time, but Costco chicken breasts and the frozen vegetables. And then on a Saturday, I would cook it all up. And I would I'd have like chicken breasts, frozen vegetables, and either brown rice or yams, basically. And then I would sometimes insert, in place of the chicken, fish. And so imagine making up all these trays in advance and then putting them in a freezer. And I went as far as to buy a freezer specifically for all the food, so that I wasn't packing all my, in this small compartment in the fridge. That was crucial because once I had that done, essentially my meals were done for the entire week. And when I say meals, that's probably going to be no less than 3, but probably 4 of those meals a day to get my calorie amount in. So once that was done, and by the way, I didn't season them because you got to be careful. If you season them, then you're stuck with that seasoning for the full week. So everything was pretty bland. And then I would use sauces and different seasonings. As I progressed through the week, I can make those changes and still stay interested in the food. In the morning, I would typically, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I just want to say, can you discuss portion sizes? Because that's where people screw up. So portion sizes and calories as well. So the portion sizes of your chicken in each meal and everything else you included.
Well, again, I did it based on a calorie amount. And what I tried to do is have approximately 400 calories per meal minimum. But really, no, I didn't try to go past 600. Now, I don't know, that was back then. I don't know if the research still holds in the sense that they felt at the time that the body had a limited capacity of digesting protein, in one setting. And so I try to be at that 400, $600 or 600 calorie amount every meal to not overburden my system and be able to fully utilize the nutrients. Portion size, as I recall, I was at about a 4 to 6 ounce piece of meat, basically fist size, the old fist size kind of thing. I found that once I visually weighed it out, and I kind of knew what it was, the size of the meat, I could just throw those in the trays and kind of eyeball it for the most part. And usually it was a cup or so of vegetables and a cup or so of yams. Now, I know that feels a little loose, like it wasn't like it was exactly 1 cup, but it's not that crucial. If I was within about a 10% of that calorie amount per meal, I'm good. You know, one meal may be a little over, one a little under, no big deal. So that was what I did for the meals. In the morning, I would have normally just some oatmeal, and I would put a scoop of protein powder, maybe some nuts in there, usually after the workout. And then if I was sick of meals or was in a hurry, that's where the shakes came in. And I found I was in a hurry a lot of the time, so I did a fair number of shakes. But the key was to get approximately 6 meals in about every 3 hours, generally speaking, and having the available to me. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you said you would have your oatmeal in the morning after you train. So would you train in a fasted state or would you train in a fed state?
Fasted. I preferred fasting only because I feel like I also like to train with a little caffeine, just because it gives me a bump in the morning. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I found that I did better. I just felt more energetic. I felt like I was in more of a fat burning mode when I was doing my cardio. And I just really had worked up a hunger by the time that workout was done. And I felt like it was kind of a natural flow for me. Other people don't do it that way, but it just felt so natural. And I would say that one final thing, because I'm dominating the conversation, I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
The thing that I found was that, especially when I had to start cutting fat more aggressively, I definitely like to do my cardio on an empty stomach for extended periods. I found that I was able to probably stay in a fat burning state longer than when I eat and then have the insulin, spike and all that. So that's generally where I was at. But I'll just put a bow on this by saying, whatever I did, and even if you listen, I'm certain when we talk, when you guys share your stories, the underlying theme here is you've got to put your meal plan in a situation where it's habitual. You're not having to think, and primarily it's pre-made. So it's a very quick, whether you're on the road, at your office, or at the house, it's a very quick preparation time. And I find that is the core of the success on the nutrition plan, at least for what I experienced.
I just want to say one thing before we go to you, Brad. So the thing is, I've trained over 7,000 clients in the 28 years I've been a trainer. I've owned 3 personal training gyms at different periods, but I could put the people in my gym, all my clients, and you could point out exactly which clients prep their meals versus who didn't. huge difference in the client's results. The people who did either a meal delivery service or prep their meals, lean, healthy, fit, strong. The people who winged it, if I don't know if that's a word, winged it, but anyways, they got nowhere near the results. So
Right.
I will say that. Also, recent research in science has shown that we can take in 100 grams of protein per meal, and it will absorb over time. So the science on that has changed. They used to believe it was
I thought
25
that
to
was-
30 grams, but now they say you could take in 100 grams at a time, a big bolus portion of protein, and you will absorb it over time and utilize it. Anyway, so that was great information. I appreciate it. But Brad, so what, as far as nutrition goes, did you do to achieve such a dramatic transformation as well?
Well, I was very similar to you, Drew, and I've never heard you explain it like that quite, but very, very similar. And I don't think it's possible to do it without the planning and the preparation, and like you say, it's key to plan and prepare like that. So exactly what I did was I had the same Tupperware containers, Drew, with the 3 compartments in it, but I didn't have quite as many as you. I had 3, and I would prepare. I was, and so I would prepare every night, but I had a system where it was easy to do, and I did the same thing every day, and and I never got tired of eating the same stuff. Basically, what I would do for preparation was I would prepare the 3 meals that I would take to work with me, and I would prepare them. I would eat every 3 hours, just like you did, 6 times a day, every 3 hours. And I would prepare my 9 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock, and 3 o'clock meals were exactly the same in the same Tupperware containers, and I would take them to work with me.
And what were they? What were the portion sizes, and what was the food?
Okay, it was like 300 to 400 calories. I didn't do the calories to the calorie, but you can, like Drew was saying, I kind of eyeballed it a little. What I would do is I would do the boneless, skinless chicken breast. I would come in every night and I would cook 3 of those in the oven, and that would be in my main, the 3 main section of the container there, and then the other one I would fill it full with mixed vegetables, green beans, peas, broccoli, what have you, and then the other one it was white rice, actually, is what I had with a little soy sauce on it, and I would put those in the refrigerator, and that was my meals for the next day for 9, 12, and 3. And in the morning, I'd wake up. I'd usually have a bowl of oatmeal and a few egg whites with 1 yolk, and then come home from work like at 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I would have one of the Bill's Mileplex shakes, and then without changing, I ate the same dinner at night, like 8, 9 o'clock at night, at the whole 12 weeks that I did it, and it was 7, 8 egg white omelet. And that was it. No, I wouldn't do any carbs at night. But it was very routine, and I did the same thing every single day, and I knew exactly every day what I was gonna eat. Very similar to you,
Yeah.
Drew. Very similar.
Yeah, it sounds like, because I did something very different, because I was lean already when I started. You guys had some body fat to lose, but I was lean.
Right.
So I ate every time I was hungry. So I would say if I actually figured out how many meals I ate a day, it was probably, if I averaged out, about 8 meals a day. And it was always basically the same thing. It was tuna and vegetable, eggs and vegetable, red meat and vegetables, chicken and vegetables. But I would throw rice in my post-workout meal. And but it was still vegetables and a lean protein. And that's still pretty much the way I eat today. But I want to say one thing that you didn't mention, Brad. Drew, he had the incredible Keith Klein helping them, who's world renowned as far as a nutritionist. But you had somebody even bigger help you. Who did you have help you?
I had Mike Menser.
Mike Menser.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. That was an experience. Yeah, I actually went out and went through a week of workouts with him out in Venice Beach, California, and that was an experience.
Yeah. So do you guys know who Andrew Huberman is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't guess.
Yeah. Well, anyways, when he was young, he hired Mike Mincer to help train him as well. So
Oh,
it's funny that you
okay.
did. I was just listening to Andrew Huberman this morning. He said, "Yeah, I hired Mike Mincer when I was younger." I said, "Brad Wadlow did the same thing. Two
Yeah, I
geniuses.
did.
Not that you're not a genius, or I'm not one either." Anyway, so great explanation of your nutrition, and so did you guys ever have a cheat meal?
Well, I was going to say there's one thing I missed now I'm curious what you guys did. And that is, and this is a question that was asked quite often for people that wanted to do this themselves. And they said, well, how did you arrive at how much food? How did you arrive at your portion sizes? What was driving that? And there's a simple formula that I used that I found that it's been fairly effective over the years for myself and for the people I've recommended it to. And the formula is this: if you want to lose fat, take your body fat or your body weight and multiply it by 10. If it's more of a maintenance,
same thing.
Yeah, more of a maintenance level, take your body fat or body weight and multiply it by 12. And if you're
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, and then multiply by 15. So it's 10 to lose weight, 12 multiply by 12 to break even, 15. And it may be simple, but it seems to be true. And I found that even if I'm going multiplying my weight by 15, and you think, well, is that too much food? I don't think so. I felt like it really, it fed my body adequately for muscle growth without loading me up with too much fat. And here's the question for you guys. When I was listening to The Rock, I was listening to Hugh Jackman, and it was one other celebrity, and they're saying how many calories they ate a day to get their physique. And they're saying 8,000 calories a day. And that just, if you're not on something, an enhancement product of some sorts, I could not work the math out of my head. If I took on 8,000 calories, I would have way more body fat.
Oh God, I would too.
Bad news. There's some bad information going on out there, I think. Did you guys catch any of that?
Yeah, so I 100% agree with you on the multiplication for your body weight. So I use exactly that. 10 times your desired body weight in calories if you're trying to lose fat, 12 times if you're trying to maintain, and 15 for the average person that's trying to gain. But for me, I took in 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day when I did the body of work challenge, just because I gained 30 pounds, and so I was just eating, even if I wasn't hungry. I was forcing the food in and training like a freaking beast. And I'm sure you guys train like freaking beast too. But I was forcing the calories in, and I was watching my body fat, and it wasn't going up. But I'd say I did between 5,000 and 6,000 calories, and I'm not a big guy. When I won that contest, I think I was about 180 pounds. I don't quite remember, but 180, right around there, maybe 182. But yeah, I took in more calories. But for the average person, it is 10, 12, and 15. And this is from me training thousands of people. That's exactly the formula. For a rare anomaly like myself, who's just trying to put on weight, muscle mass, not worrying about fat gain that much, it would be much higher, like it was for me. But what did you do, Brad, as far as that calculation goes?
I think I was under 1,800, like I was between, like I said, I didn't count every single calorie, but those meals weren't very big, and they were probably around 300. And I know this, I was hungry the whole time. I mean, it was not an easy 12 weeks. And as far as like calculating getting real dialed in on your calories, I think that's important. You need to know, but I will say this too. At no point in time did I ever have to guess whether I was, eating too many calories or because I could feel it. I was hungry the whole time. It was, yeah. I mean, I knew I was eating the right amount of calories the whole time because I had some fat to lose, but I had some muscle to gain too. But yeah, I was around 1,800, and I was under that probably, but I was hungry.
Well, hey, let me jump in though, because that reminds me, Brad, of something that I experienced, and that is when I went from when I made that decision, okay, I'm going to do the contest. And then I started
Mhm.
preparing. And then when it's day one and I'm now eating 6 times a day,
Right.
I would have to say that it took me, because you were saying you were hungry all the time.
I
And
was.
Jeff, you were saying, hey, I was eating anything and everything, you know. Well, for me,
Well, no, I was eating all healthy food, but I was
oh,
force feeding myself. Yeah.
force feeding.
Yeah.
That's it. And for
Yeah.
me, it felt like I was force feeding for about the first maybe 3 days to a week. Kind of, I can't remember exactly. It's been so far back, but I remember there was like, wow, okay, that's a lot of food to take in during the day. But I found that once my body adapted and I was putting in the time at the gym, you know, really consistently cardio training, then I didn't feel overburdened too much. I felt like it was about right. But Brad, you felt like you were in hunger all the time. I didn't feel like I was in hunger all the time. And Jeff, did you go all the way maybe not till the end, because you probably had to cut at the end, but did you stay with that?
I stayed with it all the way through. Yeah, I stayed with it all the way through. And here's the even more thing that's a little psycho, I guess. I would sleep about 6 hours a night, and I would set my alarm for 3 hours into my sleep to wake up to go drink a shake, because I was just my goal, because I was lean when I started, so my goal was just put on muscle, force it on, and so pretty much every 3 hours of the day I was eating a meal, which is not it by today's science and research. That's not actually healthy, because it keeps your insulin levels elevated all the time.
Right.
If your goal is longevity as we get older, that's not good. It's good if you're a pro bodybuilder or somebody who's trying to put on all this mass. But did you guys have anything else to say regarding that, or should we move on to the workouts now?
Yeah, actually, I didn't. And that is, and this is why these podcasts go long when you have me on there. Sorry, Joe. It's because I had so many questions for you guys. Though this relates to now I forgot. No, this was tied to training. Where was I at with that?
We're talking about the nutrition, you know, yeah. So anyways, let's if you remember, go ahead and jump in, but let's talk about the training. So I want to talk about the weight training schedule that you guys followed, what exercise you did, and if you did any cardio as well. So go ahead, Drew, since we started with you last time, go ahead.
You know, I want to hear Brad, and then I'll do it. Go, Brad.
Okay, let's do Brad. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll do my Alzheimer's and figure out what I was about to say. So continue.
Okay, so with the training, you know, and I had Mike Menser guide me with the training, and it was as routine as my diet was. You know, my nutrition never changed, and neither did my training, except for the weights and reps. So I trained on Mondays, and I trained twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. And the goal was to get more weight or more reps on, you know, I never changed exercises. Everything stayed exactly the same. And I would try to gain weight on the exercises or reps or both in some cases. So I remember exactly what I did. So I trained Mondays and Thursdays, Monday in a 2-week split. Mondays would be chest and back, which was dumbbell flies, superset with close grip, elbows wide incline barbell press. And for back, it would be a pullover machine, superset with lat pull downs, and a set of dumbbell shrugs. Dumbbell shrugs is what I use. And then Thursday was leg extension, superset with leg press, a set of leg curls, and a set of standing calf raises. So that was week 1. So we tried to prevent overlapping the exercises, not to give one muscle any more attention than the others. So that's why chest and back, but it was actually an entire upper body, because your biceps got worked on the pull down, your triceps got worked on the incline presses for that day. So the week 2, shoulders and arms. So it was, I believe, dumbbell side raises, superset with overhead press, And when I say these exercises, every exercise was 1 set to failure. And upper body was 6 to 10 reps, and then lower body was 12 to 20. And so the shoulders and arms, that was the shoulders. And then I did, let's see, I think I did a set of bent over dumbbell lateral raises, and then a set of bicep curls for the biceps, and a set of tricep push downs, superset with weighted dips. And then that was it for shoulders and arms. But that actually worked chest and back, because you got your chest in the dips, right? And let's see, shoulders and arms, you got your chest, yeah, and your back with some of the other, the other things, and with like the bent over lateral raises, and then the week 2 leg workout, leg workout stayed the same. And
So did you do
I gained gained on every workout. I got stronger.
Right. Did you do cardio, Brad?
For that contest, I really didn't. No.
Yeah. So the thing is, I was gonna say, you don't really need to do cardio to get ripped. You just have to dial in your nutrition.
Diet,
and that's exactly what you did. Yeah. So you're a perfect example of. I didn't do cardio. I don't know if you did, Drew. We'll talk about that in a second. But I didn't do cardio. I just ate based on my metabolic and physiological need to gain mass and not gain fat. And same with you. You ate so healthy and appropriate to fat loss that cardio is overrated, personally, in my opinion, because it can lead to overtraining if your goal is to really maximize your results. But I'm curious what you did for your workout now, Drew.
Well, I was more traditional in the sense that I did basically the set rep scheme of probably 3 sets, generally speaking, per exercise, with a 6, 8, 10 or 8, 10, 12 rep scheme. But I found that what worked well for me was chest tries, back bis, and legs, generally speaking, so that I gave each body part essentially 2 days of recovery, generally speaking. 2 to 3 days, because sometimes after that leg day, I would take a day off. And so with that scheme, I would throw in some core exercises periodically, a little bit extra calf training, maybe working on some weak body parts. But again, staying with the back bicep, chest try, shoulder, just keeping those muscle groups together as best I could. I didn't worry so much about overtraining a particular body part. I did, for example, I put more effort into, for back exercise, I put a little bit more effort into that. And by the time I got to biceps, so I put the big muscle groups first. And by the time I got to a bicep exercise, I had trained my biceps pretty thoroughly with these other exercises. So instead of doing a traditional three step or 3 set scheme, I just may do something more traditional, what Brad did with 1 just hard set of bicep, and then move on, because that, it's a smaller muscle group and you don't want to overwork it. So that was generally where I was at with the weight training. But I think, like I mentioned in our first podcast, Jeff, I think if I had to do it over again, I would have spent more time with the legs. I just felt like, I spent more time with the legs, I think I would have even put on more mass. So that was one thing I would do differently. Now, as far as cardio, I did a fair amount of cardio. I felt like because I wanted to eat a fair amount of food to gain muscle, but I felt like for me, the cardio, it was good, but it did have some detrimental effects at the end, more so because the cardio during kind of the bulking phase was minimal, 20 minutes. Just enough to kind of, keep the metabolism going. A lot of times I would maybe even do a cardio session at night. I would train weights in the morning and then do a cardio session in the evening just to bump up that metabolism a little bit going to bed. I felt that was a good strategy. But here's where I felt like the cardio worked for me. but it's an intricate balance. Is near the end when I was trying to get that last little body fat off, that muffin top on your waist, that little barrier right there, right at the waistline that you want to get off to really get that six pack. I was at 2-a-days. It took me, I started about 2 weeks before a photo shoot, and then said, okay, I'm going to start doing 2-a-days. 2-a-days is defined by weight training, followed by cardio in the morning, and then a 30 to 40 minute session of cardio in the evening. Another thing I probably would experiment with more would be HIIT. Mine was very low intensity. And so, but that balance I was talking about is you can start digging into those hard gain muscle, that hard muscle gaining that you did that entire bulking session. You can kind of eat that away if you're not careful with that. So that's where I was at with it. So yeah, I did cardio. I did a fair amount of it, and it was helpful, especially at those last couple of weeks, to get that last bit of fat off.
So Drew, you mentioned working out 2 to 3 days in a row with that split that you did, but how many days a week did you do?
I was usually 6 days on, 1 day off. I tried to at least get a day, but sometimes if I didn't feel like training, I would take a day off. I rarely trained every day. If I did train on a day off, it was only because I cheated on a previous workout and maybe I want to do like a calf exercise or something that I felt like, this is the thing that nobody talks about. This will be interesting to get your perspective. Did you guys find that when you were really in the mode, like you were really in it at this point, where you're all motivated, everything's running on all cylinders, did you find it hard to stay away from the gym? Like it was exciting, kind of in a way.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, wow, I'm betraying myself if I don't go. I have to keep myself away from the gym as opposed to trying to get myself to the gym.
I did have that feeling, Drew. And what helps me was I at first I thought, I'm not doing enough. This 2 days a week can't possibly be enough, right? And but I kept very accurate training logs, and like I said, I'd go to failure, and I would count to the quarter of a rep. Like, so for, leg press, I may say, it may say in there last week, I got, X amount of weight for 17 3/4 rep. So I would, and then I would come in the next day and put another 30 pounds on and get, 20 reps or something. So that's what kept the progress of my training journal kept me thinking that I was okay going 2 days. Yeah.
Well, Jeff,
So I want to see.
We never talked about this. Jeff, we never talked about a training journal. And that's so funny is because even though a lot of us have a lot of similarities in how we got to the EAS finals, I did not really have a great training journal. I kind of had some guidelines, but once those guidelines were set, I just kind of worked within the parameters of those guidelines. I really wasn't looking for personal bests or anything like that. It was just like lockstep, train, eat, and just watch the body transform as opposed to any measurement. But I think that could have been to my detriment. And I know you did it, Brad, but did you keep one, Jeff? We never talked about that.
No, I've never journaled in my life. I've never journaled my nutrition. I've never journaled my workouts. And I will say I've trained thousands of people, different personalities. The journal is necessary. Some personalities like yours and mine, Drew, I've never done it. I've never written down my nutrition, my workout. But I will say, as far as the workout goes, I followed the same basic schedule that you did, Drew. I did 3 days on, 1 day off. So day one was it was chest, shoulders, and triceps. Day 2 was legs, and day 3 was shoulders and arms. And then I repeat that. I got it all screwed up. So it was all the push on day 1. Chest, shoulders, and triceps. Day 2 was legs, and day 3 was back and biceps. And then I repeated that again. I did it 6 days a week. But the thing that kept me excited and driven to go back to the gym, like you were talking about, Drew, it was hard to stay out of the gym, is all of us were seeing incredible results daily. Yeah. And weekly, huge results. And even people in the gym that saw me would say, "What are you doing?" And it was just, number one, I had my nutrition really dialed in. And then as far as the workout goes, and I'm sure you guys will agree, when it comes to the intensity that you train with, as far as the weights goes, you have to train like a freaking beast. And most people don't train it hard enough to create a big enough stressor to create the muscle and strength adaptations. And it's only because they just aren't capable of digging that deep into their pain and their suffering to really push to the limit. So
that brings up a good point, Jeff. And that's like when I would, I was such limited on the number of exercises and sets that I was doing. It was really psych yourself up, get ready, know that you got to beat 17 reps or whatever it was on this exercise. And then, that intensity comes. Yeah, it helps. What do you got? I'll tell you what I do today too. I'd be interested to see what you guys do today. Cause my program today is pretty similar almost. I work the whole body. Of course I spend a lot of time on the bike now, on the mountain bike. But I usually hit it once a week, and I'll go in, I'll do a set of leg press. I'll do one set of leg press, one set of squats, one set of deadlift, bench press, and reverse grip lat pull down. And that's it. But I still keep a journal. Like I kind of watch. I don't post the kind of weights I did, but yeah.
So that's what I want to discuss now. Since we went over what we did in the past, our training, our nutrition. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, but the thing is, all of us for our age, you're 55, Brad, Drew 61, I'm 63, incredible shape. Even compared to 25-year-olds, we're in incredible shape. So that's what I want to discuss now is what we do today. And so you were mentioning you do follow the same training schedule. Is that still 2 days a week with the weight training, Brad?
I try to get in 2 days a week with a full body, but with my work schedule and everything, it's kind of hard. But I do get 1 day in per week, and with that short abbreviated workout. And I can tell it's enough at my age, but I still hit it really hard, But try usually at least one, sometimes two.
Yeah. So regarding that, I don't know if very many people know, but Brad is a championship mountain biker. So he rides. How many miles would you say you average on per week? Biking? How many miles would you say you average?
When I'm in, the Leadville 100 is my big mountain bike race out in Colorado. So that's what I train for all year. And when I'm, 3 months before then, I'm a couple 100 miles a week on the mountain bike. Ooh. Minimum. Yeah.
Wow.
That is unbelievable. And Jeff, Brad is sandbagging us. You know what he just did? He's not telling everybody he beat Lance Armstrong in the last race. This dude.
Well, I did.
Is that true?
I don't know what Lance was up to, but I was a minute and 6 seconds ahead of him. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh
this
my
dude's
God.
serious. He's not a brand.
I don't know what Lance had going on, but I'm going with it. I was a minute ahead of him. We're going with that.
Absolutely. That's amazing, man. That is congratulations, because
that's
an accomplishment. That guy's, no joke.
So I will say, Brad could get away with training with weights 1 day a week because he's just logging so many miles on his bike. And that's really what Brad is into today, is really cycling is his thing, and he's a champion at it. But Drew, what are you currently doing as far as the exercise goes? If there's any weight training or body weight training or cardio, what are you doing?
Well, I think I've been influenced partially because of my wife and the business we have. We have home care, so I interact with seniors a lot, and this has been going on for years. And what I found was that the fact that the seniors were losing muscle mass so quickly, it shocked me. And especially when I heard some of the stories where these people were at, not, in their life, and where they ended up at. And so that made me think that, weight training is really important, because obviously when you lose that muscle mass, that's where aging and things start accelerating. But I don't know, and Jeff, being a trainer, you probably have more appreciation in this, and that is, how many times have you seen the older guys in the gym, and they're diehards, man. They look pretty good. So, but they've either got knee wraps on all the time, or they've got elbow wraps, and their shoulders in bad shape, and all these different things. And so what's happening is these guys are warriors and they look good, but they're, at the end of the day, it's still a spiral downward because there's biomechanical problems in their movements they haven't addressed. And ultimately throwing weight on that does nothing but grind your joints down and cause you to, at later stages, either look at Everett. He has had at least 1 or 2 shoulder replacements. So it's not uncommon that as you get older, you're having to have even if you're in the gym, it's like, well, I can't get my knees my problem, or my hips are my problem, or my shoulders. And I realized that I was going down that path. And again, I had the ability to kind of look at, from our clients, what was going on with them, and realizing there's got to be a different strategy here. And what I did is, I realized that before I want to really get into that weight training again, as I did, because I think it's important. I think we do need to weight train when we get older, but if you don't address the biomechanical problems that build up over the years, and it's not for this particular session, but at some point we're going to talk about what those biomechanical disruptions are. But it's a twisting of your frame. Your hips are off, your shoulders are off, and then you're putting weight on that, and it only gets worse over time. I don't care how dedicated you are at the gym, you're going to break down. So long story short is, I backed away from that philosophy and started working on extreme functionality. There's a guy, Ido Portal. Have you ever heard of him? He's a guy that is a movement. His whole philosophy is based on movement. And the only reason I mentioned him is only because he's not really weight training. It's a lot of body weight, gymnastic kind of moves, where you're really focusing on correct biomechanical movement. In addition, I focus on the left side of my body because I am right dominant, and most people are right dominant. And it's not just right arm dominant, it's right hip dominant, right leg dominant. And you have that imbalance over time, it just gets worse and worse. And so again, I'm just kind of covering the superficial element of what I'm doing. But to boil it down is, I've backed off a lot of the weight training elements temporarily to focus on regaining real deep functional movement. I will sit in a squat position for 30 minutes a day. You'd be shocked at, when you get older, your function and movement goes away. But surprisingly, it comes back. So what we think is aging is really not aging. It's just lack of movement. And when you start getting your body back to those, where you can touch your toes again, and you can squat, and you can do some of those movements, it's amazing what that does to your strength and your ability to then put pressure test those joints again. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a journey of more functional movement and being able to perform strength in those functional movements. And then the next step is back to the weights, because the weights ultimately create the muscle strength that you need in your older age. And all the studies are finding that the amount of muscle you carry into your older age is crucial. It's crucial. So maybe that was a bit long-winded, but as I've gotten older,
okay.
Functional movement.
So I do want to say that joint integrity is not important. It is everything, because once you lose joint integrity, you can't do cardio anymore. You can't lift weights anymore. So joint integrity is everything. People don't realize it, because like you say, when they're injured or they have pains, they still train through that instead of correcting the issue that's causing that pain. And so what they do is they just compound the injury. So joint integrity is everything. And my father's a perfect example of that. He lost his knee function, and he was always very fit. He's in a wheelchair now, and his heart is just getting weaker. His brain is getting weaker. He's deteriorating, even though he was a very active guy, but he abused his knees and never took care of them properly. So he's deteriorating very quickly just because he's lost his joint mobility. So once you lose joint mobility, basically there's nothing you could do cardiovascular wise or muscle strength wise. And I do want to add one more thing, that the number one indicator of longevity is your cardiovascular health. That's number one. But number two is muscle mass. And so you have to be able to move your joints to do both of those. And so joint integrity, you need to be the most conscious of that.
It is. And what people don't fully realize, and again, just because the nature of what I do, is I'm keenly aware of sarcopenia. And that's something that kicks in at about 50 years old for most people. But sarcopenia basically is a muscle wasting disease that seems to show itself around 50. But why is this so important? Because when you are immobile for any period of time, when you get older, you have an accelerated muscle loss that you don't have when you're younger. And Jeff, when you're talking about your dad, we see this time and time again. If somebody breaks their hip or they're injured and they're immobile as they get older and they stay in bed and they try to, convalesce in bed, they a lot of times don't make it out. In other words, they never regain that past function. And so it's so crucial. When I say muscle mass is so crucial, it's really a key indicator of health as you get older. And the thing you don't want to do is be immobile as you get older. You need to go the opposite direction. And not only that, but Jeff, what you mentioned about your dad's mental capacity, I've found this time and time again. We've had clients that are fine, and then all of a sudden they have an event where they're bedbound, and they've lost that mobility. And then you check on them 6 months later, they've lost mental function. There is a direct tie, I believe, to mental acuity and function and movement. And so it's no joke. Diet's important, absolutely, but movement is crucial.
Yeah, I've always said you didn't lose it,
Yeah. So one thing I want to mention regarding neurological function, I'm guessing you guys have heard of Dr. Daniel Amen. He's the number one. He's a psychiatrist. He's the number one brain researcher in the world. Anyways, he said the biggest impact on brain health is not nutrition, although it's very important. It is exercise, because when you exercise, your heart pumps more blood and oxygen into the deep tissue of the brain. So your brain will get the nutrients it needs and the oxygen it needs to stay healthy. So once you lose your joint mobility, your heart no longer can pump the volume that is needed to get into the deep tissue of the brain. And this is one reason that people suffer strokes, because they're not getting their heart to pump aggressively enough to pump the blood and oxygen into the deep tissue of the brain, so parts of the brain will die. So Dr. Daniel Amen says the number one thing you could do, even though nutrition is critically important, it is exercise, but aggressive exercise if you really want to maximize your neurological function. It's like we do aggressive exercise, and that's the answer for neurological function. So you're going to say
Jeff,
something?
Yeah, I was going to say, you have a unique perspective. You've trained so many people one-on-one. One of the things that I was curious about was that I know in my own exercise protocol now, I spend, I'd say, a reasonable amount of time either hanging upside down or when doing hyperextension. I'm leaning forward and really kind of stretching out my back, hamstrings, and all that. Now, at 61, I didn't used to think twice about it. Now I'm thinking, wow, I've been in this upside down position, and I find that in terms of mental, getting the blood down there is not a negative. I don't think. I think it's been all positive. But here's the question. When you're training older people like us guys that are long in the tooth,
Yes.
did you ever have any concerns about training older people and in getting them in upside down positions, which I think is good, but at the same time, you may blow a vessel out or something? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, so here's the thing. When I always adapted my training based on that person's personality. If they had mental toughness, if they had fortitude, I would train them harder. So I didn't care about age, because there's very young people that are emotionally fragile, I would say, and can't handle pain and challenges. And there's old people that can. So I've had clients as old as 97 years old. They were tough. So I did push them. I didn't have them do crazy things, but I did push them. I had them lift fair amounts of weight. I had them do cardio, but in my
Did you ever have them being upside down?
4 years, I've never done that. I've never done that.
Okay.
But that would improve the blood flow and oxygen to the brain. That would, and so it's going to bring more nutrients, more oxygen into the brain. But I will say, I want to mention one thing that I started doing recently, because all I've done for the last, basically, I've been working out in the gym most of the last 49 years. I'm 63 years old. But that's all I was into. I love having muscle. I love being strong. I would do other sports along the way, but I really just was into being strong. And what I started doing about 6 months ago was sprints. I go to the soccer field. I sprint on the grass. And the amazing thing that happened was I was starting to develop stiffness in my body, just from always just lifting and not really doing anything else. And that stiffness and my mobility and even my dexterity, I will say, once I started sprinting again, I realized how much slower I had become, because I hadn't been working those fast twitch muscles. And also one of the things that was amazing that happened, because I was doing impact, I was hitting, I won't do it on the cement because that's too much impact, but I do it on the grass. It got my lymphatic system working better. So all of a sudden, my body was detoxifying better. My aches and pains went away from sprinting. Everybody thinks it's dangerous, but I'm 63 and I'm out there doing full blast sprints. I pulled my hamstrings a couple of times, but as I got in better shape, I quit doing that. But I do full blast sprints, and now I do dexterity exercise, mobility exercise as well. My aches and pains basically gone, and my knees better than they were before I started sprinting. So but you
Jeff,
got to be careful. If you're overweight, you don't want to sprint. Yeah.
That's funny you bring that up, because I was just reading something, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was ridiculous, right? It was like 2% of the population over the age of 30 have never sprinted, it was something ridiculous like that. And yeah, that was after I read that, I'm like, I'm going to go out and do a few sprints. So I did. Yeah. Yeah, it feels good to sprint.
So I want to say, I want to say one more thing regarding that. So what you do on the bike, cardiovascular wise and muscle wise, is the same, but sprinting is a little bit different because you're getting impact, and that creates stress on the bones and the muscle that actually improve the bone density and improve your muscular tissue as well. So you want to do everything. So what you're doing, you're getting the cardiovascular, which is the best actually, and then the muscle strength as well. But the pounding is a different stressor on the body that has benefits as well. You just don't want to be overweight and do sprints, because
I could feel it, Jeff. I went out there, I got good and warmed up, and and I don't know, maybe 30-40 yard sprints, did 4 or 5 of them, and man, it felt good, and it felt good to do that. And I was like, I could tell I haven't done that for a while. Not going to let it happen again. Yeah.
But what's interesting about what you both are saying is that people think they have an impression of aging. It's like, oh, it's just something that happens and there's nothing much you can do about it. And, my body's breaking down and I don't feel as good and I'm not as energetic and it's just old age. I don't believe that's true. I think, yes, we all have that to some degree. But Jeff, you were just showing, and Brad, you too, just go out and do what you used to do when you were younger.
Right on. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we sit there and say, well, I'm older. Well, yeah, but are you sprinting? Are you running? Are you jumping? How many times are you not just going to the gym, but when you were younger, look how many activities that caused movement in different ways. And when you start losing that, you're shutting your body down in many different ways. Your neurological system, your cardiovascular system, just all those things that would normally be stimulated in all those different movement patterns. And we get locked into a very specific movement pattern and lose, literally you lose it if you don't use it. And we have hundreds of different movement patterns that our daily life never puts us in. And you guys are a perfect example. You both did something, even though you're both highly trained, and just doing that one activity felt better. It created a lymphatic difference, all these different things. And you just did something you did when you were younger, more consistent.
Right.
Yeah. So, very interesting. I think
I want to,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I will say, like, when I started sprinting again, it made me realize we do deteriorate if we don't continue to move. So my speed was slower. My range of motion was not as good. I was getting cramps in my hamstrings, but the more I did it, the bigger range of motion, the faster I got, the cramps, I wasn't getting them. And so your body adapts to what you do. It adapts to being lazy, and it adapts to being a badass. So you just got to step up, take action, take intelligent action. Yeah, take intelligent action.
Well, a perfect example.
Anyways, guys, I want to wrap this up here because we're coming on an hour. So, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like,
we got a little bit of a lag. Yeah.
I'll say just recently I've been practicing a little bit more on pistol squats. And people say, well, my knees are so bad. But really, if you first kind of, hang on to something and practice, it's not your knees. It's just you got to get you got to put your body in that position and work it easily at first, a little bit more. It's still there. Everything we think we've lost with age, just do it. And you'll be shocked at how it comes back quicker than you thought.
Absolutely. And real quick here, I do a lot of balance work too on balance boards. And it's amazing how much balance you can gain so quickly. It's, like when you're a kid, you could jump on one of those, and just balance. But even, I between two trees out in the backyard, I had a, what do you call it? A slack line, and, like a thin 3-inch strap to try to walk across for your balance. But yeah, working on balance is another thing to do.
That's a great thing. Absolutely. And I know, Jeff, we got to wrap things up, but I will say, based on what I do for a living, balance and muscle go hand in hand, because if you fall, and falling is a big problem when we get older. It's a big one. I underestimated how big it is. A fall can ultimately result in hip fracture, and your chances of living 6 months past that hip fracture is not good. And a lot of it's due to balance. And even us, in my 60s, the fact that we have to, I don't know how much you work on it, Jeff, but I was shocked. Like, I'm shocked when I do something new, and I'm thinking, because, I'm fairly active. I should be able to do any movement and feel relatively comfortable. And I'm shocking myself all the time. I'll try something new and think, oh my gosh, I don't have any neurological connection to this movement. I have no strength in this movement. It's a movement pattern that I've had and I just don't utilize. And it's shocking because when you get older, you go, oh my gosh, I've lost the ability to stand on one foot, and hold that position. And that's not that, you can't take that for granted.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, and Jeff, this is where I like, we talk about the past, but I'm excited about talking about what we do in the future. Like what we do now.
Yeah, me too.
Right. So yes. So you guys, we're going to wrap this up because I know Brad has to move on to another podcast. Brad is very popular. So anyways, I do want to say that more than likely we're going to do more of these. I'm happy to do more, and I believe these guys are too. So if you guys have any questions, anybody out there in the audience regarding something you want to talk about, improving your health, your fitness, your energy, your vitality, your speed, go ahead and ask those questions, because I'm pretty confident that we're going to be doing more of these. And so, Drew, do you have any last parting words you want to add before we head out of here?
No, I just think that I really enjoyed this. That's my parting words. I enjoy getting to talk, not only talk about the good old days, but quite frankly, I like this outlet. I haven't really spoken to many people about it. And it's such an interesting outlet to be able to talk about all. And I'm so intrigued with what you guys are doing, because we're all so similar ages. We all came from a similar successful point in our lives physically. And I think the real interest now, especially for all the baby boomers, is what the heck are these older guys doing to stay in shape? When we talk about what we did, 25 years ago, there's so much information for the young guys. They can go look at that. But really the value is, what is us old timers doing right now? And I think there's some real value in that. So I'm excited to kind of be able to talk about that.
Yeah, me too, Drew.
I completely agree.
Really
Brad,
interested in what everybody's doing now. Like I'd love to talk more about your routines now. That'd be fun.
Well, there you go, Jeff. You might have another show.
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, I'm all for doing more shows. And again, so everybody that's watching this, please post questions below if you have any. There's been some bad internet drag, unfortunately, on this, but hopefully it comes out okay. And again, thanks everybody for watching, and I look forward to seeing everybody back here. Drew, Brad, you guys are great. I appreciate it. Take care, everybody.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, Jeff. Brad, talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, great talking to you guys.
Lance Armstrong. He beat Lance Armstrong. Congratulations.